goes quick, probably an aneurysm or a blood clot or, you know, something like that. That doesn't scare me. What I think I would prefer, of course, is to be able to go out gracefully with ceremony. Short version of a story, there was a fellow that in one of the men's groups, this amazing men's group that went on for about 8 years, and pretty much the same guys that I was a facilitator. I'm a former therapist, and he came in as an individual client and started working on certain things, and then he went to the doctors and found he had prostate cancer, advanced. And he was given basically a death sentence. You know, you got 3 to 6 months. Well, he chose not to believe it, which God bless him for that, and started working in alternative medicine and Qigong, and found a Qigong master in Los Angeles, and it took him 4.5 years. You know, he lived another 4.5 years, and it was really beautiful to walk with him through this passage. Well, we got the word that he finally just said that's it, because he'd been in and out of the hospital. He went back to traditional medicine, got radiation and chemo and all that stuff, and I'm half guessing that that's probably part of what killed him at that point too, but that's my surmise. But what we did, the men's group, and it was interesting because we finished the men's group right about that same time. I'll call him just Robert, that's not his real name, but there were 5 of us, and we got some ceremonial tools, some of the ceremonial tools, sage, which to use to smudge, which he loved. There was feathers that he had gathered that his wife actually brought in. His wife was with him. We walked in, there were 5 of us. And we surrounded his bed, and we did a prayer. And he was kind of like this. And I held his hand, and I said, almost said his name, "Robert, can you hear me?" And he squeezed my hand. And I said, "Robert, we know that you're on your way out, you know, that you're going to die soon, and we came to spend the time with you." Boy, it brings up emotion for me. Because it was such a powerful, powerful, powerful process. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced. And I don't, at this point, I could think about it and remember all the details, but we said prayer. I think we sang, speaking of music and rhythm. I think, yeah, we did rattling, yeah. We did some rattling around him, prayed, put our hands on him, which is not unusual. We did this in the men's group if a man was hurting or, you know, needed some sustenance. I even asked them to do this with me once when I was feeling kind of burned out. But we prayed and we gave him, you could say gave him energy or love or blessing or whatever. Everybody put their hands on him. And you could see just minimally, but you could see his response and his reaction. And then each of us took a turn by ourselves. By the way, when we walked in, and you know, his wife knew what the gig was. His wife left because it was a men's ceremony. At this point, it was a men's ceremony. Then one by one, each of us got an opportunity just to whisper in his ear, you know, blessings on your journey. It was very, very sweet, very, very powerful, as you can tell. I mean, it's still with me when I bring the memory up. And then, you know, the coda to that, or the piece to add to that was, it was about 3 days later, because what happened is he said, I'm done. I don't want any more food or anything. You know, they kept a morphine thing going, I think, and I think some liquid, but that was about it. So he made a choice. And his wife called me 3 days later just sobbing and said, you know, he died. And I held him for an hour, you know, after he died, his last breath. And it was very, very sweet. And then we did another ceremony following that, which was several of us. He loved the ocean, and he lived right near the ocean. So his wish was that his ashes be scattered on the ocean. So we did that too, and I ministered or facilitated that ceremony too. It can be an elegant and a beautiful process. And if it's a sudden death, there still can be a beautiful ceremony that honors that person's life. I've always liked the idea that if I know that I'm going to die, is I want everybody to come in and say all the good things that they like about me and they love about me, you know. And let's have some champagne, you know, let's celebrate. Or as my father used to say, he said, oh, the Irish, we do it like the Irish. They grieve when you're born and then they celebrate when you die. But that's the Irish, you know, and it's part of me too. One of the things I've witnessed, Sharon, is there's some gifted mediums, including my wife, even though that's not her main gig. She works with angels, but I've seen her talk to dead people. I've just witnessed, Gordon Smith's another one comes to mind. It's just an amazing medium. And that's one thing that comes to mind right away is, yeah, go find a really, not just, a quack or huckster, but, somebody that's reputable medium, and see if you can contact that person. There's something that verifies that life goes on. It's just amazing what I've just witnessed too many to not believe it at this point, the experience that, yes. Now, you could explain it different ways. Maybe it's that person's memory of the person that they're relating to, or some other consciousness that they're relating to. But I've seen, details, and he liked red shoes, right? And the person goes, oh my God, yeah, they liked red shoes, things like that. So that might be a little difficult for some people to do. But what you can do is ceremony. Create a ceremony. One of my brothers who died, on what his wife would do with their son, and he had actually 2 sons. I have to count, 1, 2, 3. He had 6 kids, one who had died very young. But with the kids, they'd go out and have a picnic about a month after he was buried. They'd bring a glass of wine for him. And they set the glass of wine at the top of the gravestone. And they'd talk with him. I went to my father's grave back in Iowa, and I spent time with him. It was kind of funny, Iowa, okay? Because I did some rattling and prayer, and did some smudging, and I had a conversation with my father. I didn't really see, an apparition of my father, but I knew he was there. And yes, you could say that the grave and the gravesite is a symbol. And yes, that's true too, but that's what we work with in ceremonies, symbols and metaphors. But does that say they're not real? No. What we too often get locked in is this sort of left brain, rational, scientific way of thinking about the world. And mythos, which includes metaphor and symbols and stories and music, is the work of the soul. And so when I talk to my father, from one perspective, they'd probably come and lock me up. You're talking to your father, what are you doing there? You're sitting there. It was kind of funny because people would come to the other graves, I'm sitting there rattling, and I just said, well, I won't say what I said, but sort of the effect like, well, that's, I'm just going to do this anyway. I didn't care because this was critical and important. And he came to me, and he actually gave me messages. This was, we were there for sort of a modified wake. Messages for some of his stepchildren, really, because I'm the only child of my father's genetics. And I went back and delivered the message. And one of the messages I delivered was to my sister's husband, Jim. My sister's name is Nancy. And Jim's kind of like a good old Iowa boy, I don't know if he delves into this or not, but I didn't care. I said, I got a message to give to you. And it was the essence of it. It said, from Richard, my father. It said, Jim, thank you for being such a good husband to my daughter.